Italy and Spain have deployed naval ships to assist an international aid flotilla on its way to Gaza. The activists on board say it was attacked by drones near Greece while trying to reach the Gaza Strip. The flotilla, which organizers say includes about 50 civilian boats, is carrying a symbolic amount of humanitarian aid, including food and medicine. Hundreds of people are on board, among them activist Greta Thunberg and some other controversial campaigners. They say they heard at least 13 explosions overnight, while drones or aircraft dropped unidentified objects on at least 10 boats. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has accused organizers of being linked to Hamas, an accusation they reject. We can now speak to James Smith. He's a medical doctor and was on the flotilla until last Friday. He joins us tonight from London. James, welcome to DW. What can you tell us about the attacks on the flotilla?
Well, the first thing to say is that this is just the latest in a long line of attacks on not only this flotilla, but of course, previous flotillas. On the 9th of September, there were two separate attacks on two boats that form part of this flotilla while they were at anchor off the coast of Tunisia. And then more recently, late on Tuesday evening, into the early hours of this Wednesday, there were a series of sustained attacks by small drones that were circling around the flotilla as it was moving south of Crete in open water. The drones numbered between sort of 15 and 20, and they were circling very close to the vessels. They were dropping, in some cases, as you can see from the footage there, explosive devices and what appeared to be sort of flashbangs, these devices that emit a lot of light and a lot of sound. They're intended to disorientate. And then they were also dropping chemical substances, the composition of which is still under investigation.
And they also jammed communications from what I've been able to research. What can you tell us about that?
That's correct. So several of the boats, all boats at sea, they use VHF to communicate with other vessels, to put out emergency distress calls if they are in trouble. And communications lines were jammed. And they also started playing music by the Swedish band ABBA. We believe that this is because the Israeli state, for reasons that defy comprehension, have some weird obsession with the participation of Swedish national Greta Thunberg in this flotilla and a previous flotilla.
Had the activists on the flotilla received any warnings or threats before the attack this time around?
No, none at all. Though, of course, over the course of the last week and extending over several months and years, if we think about the wider Palestine Solidarity campaign, there have been efforts to discredit and smear Palestine Solidarity activists. Israel has repeatedly claimed that the flotillas are not humanitarian in nature, that nefarious individuals might be participating in part of the flotilla, and in large part because political representatives, media platforms haven't challenged this narrative. In fact, in many cases have simply reproduced this Israeli propaganda. That has created space for Israel to perpetuate these attacks again on the flotilla as it moves closer to Gaza.
Just to give our viewers some context, these attacks have not been claimed by anyone. We don't know where these drones came from. We're in the realm of speculation right now. But I would like to pick up on something you said there, because the Israeli government has very much criticized the flotilla, and they actually say that it's not only a provocation. What the flotilla does is also serving Hamas. What do you say to that?
Look, I mean, the Israeli state, Israeli officials have, for as long as the Israeli state has existed, have accused anyone that is critical of the Israeli state, of its government, and now of its genocide, of being a belligerent party, in this case, Hamas. The UN Independent Commission of Inquiry last week released a report in which it concluded that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. The Israeli government released a report in which it described the three members of that commission of inquiry as, I quote, Hamas proxies. This is a tried and tested tactic used by Israel to deflect from its obligations under international law and its continued and flagrant violation of those obligations.
Just to add to that, Israel, of course, denies that what they're doing in Gaza amounts to acts of genocide. Just to get back to the flotilla right now, what's the mood like on board these vessels after the incidents?
I think participants are understandably fearful. They were aware before they agreed to participate of the risks that they might face. Again, as I've mentioned, this is not the first flotilla to embark towards Gaza. Over the history of the flotilla movement, several flotillas have been violently intercepted by the Israeli Navy. In 2010, of course, the Mavi Marmara was violently intercepted and 10 flotilla participants were killed by Israeli soldiers, many more injured. Those risks are real. And of course, there has been historically a lack of accountability, a lack of justice for those harmed by these violent and illegal interceptions and attacks. Nevertheless, people are determined. They're determined because they know about the reality of what's happening in Gaza. The function of the flotilla, of course, is to bring aid to Gaza while at the same time exposing the failure of states to uphold their legal, political and moral obligations. The flotilla participants are driven forward and motivated by that dual aim.
Is that also what made you join the flotilla?
Absolutely. I've worked in Gaza during the course of this genocide. I've worked in other humanitarian contexts. We know clearly that healthcare workers alone can't stop a genocide. Humanitarian organizations and their employees can't stop a genocide. Political leaders, states have obligations per the Genocide Convention, per a whole ream of international legal frameworks, all of which have been largely overlooked, with the exception, of course, of courageous political leadership from members of the Hague Group and so on, the Republic of South Africa, which, of course, has launched the case, now supported by several other states, against Israel, alleging genocide at the International Court of Justice. But it's incumbent upon us all, as citizens of the world, if I can call us that, to take our collective responsibilities seriously. If our states, if our elected representatives fail to act, then we have to take matters into our own hands. As the flotilla has said, when our governments fail, we sail. And that's, of course, what we're seeing now. And it's what we will continue to see. As we speak, there are already other flotillas preparing to leave European ports and follow the Sumud flotilla en route to Gaza.
Do you think, just quick yes or no answer, the flotilla will make it to its destination?
I think it faces significant challenges. I do hope, of course, that it will reach, but if it doesn't, I hope that we see that its work will have been done, which is, again, to draw attention to the failure of states to do this work and to take on Israel themselves.
James Smith, medical doctor and activist, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Let's get the view from Israel now. Noga Tarnopolsky is a journalist and joins me now from Jerusalem. Noga, what has Israel said about these alleged drone attacks and communications jamming?
Israel hasn't said anything at all about any of these events surrounding the flotilla. Israel is reacting to the flotilla itself and proposed that in several statements over the past few days that if their real aim is to help Gazans and bring aid to Gazans, that the aid could be deposited in Cyprus as other countries deposit aid and then brought in an orderly manner to Gaza. But the organizers of the flotilla rejected this, saying that their aim is also to break, I'm quoting, Israel's illegal blockade of Gaza. So for now, this does seem to be a different order of magnitude than previous flotillas aiming to come to Gaza. 30 small boats, and now accompanied by 2 Italian and 1 Spanish Navy ship. So it does seem to me a different magnitude, but Israel just says that they will not let them arrive at destination and hasn't said much more than that.
They have said that they believe and they say they have proof that the flotilla is funded by Hamas. Have they provided any evidence to support that?
That is a good point, and that's true. Tonight, there was a press conference by the military, the spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces, who repeated that, but again, has provided no evidence and didn't even describe any evidence. So we have no idea what is the nature of the possible evidence if Israel does have it. The military spokesman said several times that they do have proof, and for some reason, it's not being shared with the media.
How does the Israeli public view the flotilla? I don't know if there is much media coverage. Can you give us a sense of how all of this is being viewed in the country?
It's a tangential event for most Israelis. This week has been a holiday week. It's the Jewish New Year, so Israelis are on holidays, many of them abroad, and not paying attention to these things. And then the news inside the country and everything relating to the war directly is so momentous that Israelis are paying very little attention to everything else, including not just this flotilla, but also the declarations of recognition of a Palestinian state. They got a lot of response from Netanyahu's ministers, but it hasn't had a major impact on Israelis who are closely focused on the soldiers who are still dying in Gaza, the hostages who may be dying in Gaza, and a whole series of political scandals swirling around the prime minister himself.